Alright, Astro subscribers, welcome back to another video on the nature of exalted and debilitated planets in Western and Vedic astrology. And today we're going to be talking about Mercury, but I have to explain the concept just because there might be some people who this is their first video seeing, and I want to make sure that they know what we're talking about. So, an exalted planet is a planet that is basically a planet that is in the part of the sky where it's most comfortable. So since astrology is effectively the overlay of personality onto astronomical phenomenon and using that to link time to personality and therefore predict phenomenon that are going to happen sociologically, personally, in the future, by calculating the motions of the planets and predicting the future of people or society from that standpoint. There are certain places in the sky where a planet is more comfortable and certain places where it's less comfortable. So since each planet basically represents a sub-personality in the human psyche, it would make sense that there are some places where, for instance, your mind, your moon, is the most comfortable, or your ego, the sun, is the most comfortable. So those were the last two videos we talked about, and today I'm going to be talking about Mercury, which is similar to your mind, but it is your specifically conscious mind. It is your logical mind. It is whereas the moon is the background chatter that you come to when you're not paying attention. What is your thought process? How do you react to your environment, react to stimulus? Mercury is your logical, conscious, like, I have an idea, I'm going to consciously apply my mind to do this one thing, which is why Mercury is related to magic. It's related to argument, cognition, entrepreneurship, sales, communication, active speech, motivated speech, just generally using your brain to affect change out there in the world. Mercury rules the hands. It rules the digestive tract as well because it's related to diet and health and the idea of fact, the idea of argument, reason. All these things are mercurial. They're ruled under the sphere of Mercury. So, with this being said, one of the best ways to compartmentalize the systems that Mercury rules, anything related to calm, communication, commercials, commerce, etc. So, with this being said, where is your logical mind most comfortable? Your logical mind is most comfortable in the sign of Virgo. Mercury is exalted in the sign of Virgo, which is a sign that it rules. Not every planet is exalted in the sign that it rules. For instance, the Sun rules Leo, but is exalted in Aries, which is ruled by Mars, because Mars represents the masculine individual or the masculine ego, and the Sun is the ego, period, basically. The Sun is just the ego. So, as opposed to the Sun being in Libra, where its ego becomes very feminine and must yield to others and compromise, which the hero of the story does not want to compromise and be a supporting character in someone else's story, which is basically what Libra represents, more or less. But this being said, Mercury is exalted in Virgo, which is a sign of facts, logic, argument, debate, health, criticism, pressure testing information. Basically it's the sign of argument. It's the sign of competition. Virgo it's the natural sixth house. It represents dealings with enemies. So if you look at somebody's sixth house, you can tell the intensity of how much, or you can look at the intensity of their enemies, how much resistance they're going to face. And the two ascendants with the most resistance that they face are Scorpio, Scorpio is definitely one, because the 6 from Scorpio is Aries, and that means that Mars is their enemy, which is a malefic planet, so they're going to have difficulty with that. Gemini ascendants face a lot of opposition because Scorpio is their 6th house, and Leo ascendants face a lot of resistance because Capricorn is their 6th house. So Virgo is related to the strength of your enemies and how well you do in arguments. And obviously how well you do in arguments depends on who you get into arguments against. And if you're constantly getting into arguments with people who want to cut your head off, then you're going to be very, very adaptable to change, to aggression, to standing your ground, all these types of things. So Mercury does well here because you can apply your intelligence to deal with your enemies, to deal with your health, to deal with your routine, to logically consider how you spend your time. And Mercury is very good here. The downsides to Mercury and Virgo are rationalization and confusing logic with confusing their belief system, which is much better thought through than a lot of people's belief system. They will confuse that with the real world and become authoritarian. So the downside of earth signs in general is authoritarianism. So Virgo can definitely fall into that. So just because something is exalted doesn't necessarily mean it's going to give good results. You have to look at the house placement, the sign placement. If you're looking at an exalted house, you have to look at conjunctions, aspecting planets. You have to take the whole chart into account before you make a judgment about the outcome of what's going to happen. So, caution that. Now, the opposite of the exaltation is always the debilitation. Just like the opposite of spring is going to be fall, because they're 180 degrees apart in the year. So the opposite of the exaltation of Mercury is Pisces. So Mercury is debilitated in Pisces. And Pisces is a sign of imagination. It is a sign of creating your own ideology, creating your own religion, experimenting with various belief systems, mostly that you have created yourself. It is a sign of theoretical philosophy, theoretical physics, spirituality, New Age, science that has not been discovered yet, unknown unknowns, facts that have not been discovered yet. So it is important to realize that just because somebody has a debilitated Mercury, this does not mean that they are stupid. What it usually means is that their intelligence is being applied to their ability to imagine, to create. This being said, almost everybody I've known with Mercury and Pisces has had a large amount. They have a kind of diarrhea of the mouth. They do not stop talking. And generally this can be very annoying for people with more grounded Mercury signs. But with this being said, they often have a very concise grip on logic. They just don't care about logic. It's more like they want to apply their intelligence to think things that nobody's ever thought before, to say things nobody's ever said before. They're very creative with their intelligence, but because Mercury likes things to be organized, this can be chaotic in their life. They can make emotional decisions, rash decisions, things that other people might look at it as very impractical. But really, they're just so comfortable in their ability to speak and think that they feel like they can just take chances and they don't care about the outcome. And so just again, like I was saying, just because somebody has Mercury in Pisces does not mean they're stupid. It can just mean that they're not applying themselves. So for instance, Albert Einstein has Mercury in Pisces, or had Mercury in Pisces. And his theorizing became obviously something he became very famous for. Now, Albert Einstein also had an exalted Venus in Pisces and a bunch of other planets in Pisces. So just because and they were all in the 10th house, which is the house of fame. So just because somebody, has Mercury in Pisces, this does not mean that they're Albert Einstein. like I said, you have to look at all of the different parts of the chart. You have to look at where Jupiter is. Is Jupiter in Scorpio giving Mercury help? Is Mercury conjunct Saturn that will give it some sort of organization? Is it conjunct Venus that will give them persuasive powers? All of these things are very important to look at when you're trying to analyze the total strength of a planet, or the total weakness of it. But yeah, this being said, this is my analysis of Mercury in Virgo being exalted and Mercury in Pisces being debilitated. So, yeah. Next time I'll be doing Venus, which actually has the opposite exaltation and debilitation points of Mercury. So check that out later. See you then.